I hope Amazon doesn't mind if I don't show my face in this video. This product, while excellent, is about a somewhat sensitive topic, and my family is very religious. If you can call being Catholic, which is to say Christian, an actual religion. This book is kind of a terrifying book. It's called Jesus is the Alien from the Planet Uranus by George Wilkinson. And it's about a subject that's bothered me for a very long time. The idea that there can be so much suffering in the world, and yet the supreme deity sent his son down to suffer and die for us. Now, why would the supreme deity send his son down to suffer and die for us? And found this religion, and then still allow wars and famine and depression and stubbed toes and all the other miserable stuff that happens in the course of a life. I stumbled across this book unexpectedly. It's an ebook that doesn't have a large readership yet, alas. Kind of came across it by chance. It's about a kind of obvious fact about Jesus that most of us miss because we're raised thinking that he was the Son of God, or maybe if you're an atheist, he didn't exist, or he historically didn't exist, or he was just a guy. But if he was just a guy, I don't know how he could have performed all those crazy miracles that the Bible is full of. I mean, yeah, somebody could have made up those stories. But a lot of people corroborated those stories. All the disciples claimed to have seen them. So something that's beyond our technology was behind those miracles. I mean, he even had an apotheosis after he apparently died and was buried and rose. He rose up into heaven. Now, how on earth, if you'll pardon the pun, would a guy do that? But as I said, if he were the son of a benevolent deity, if he could do that, why wouldn't he fix my stomachache right now? The answer, as George Wilkinson came across in another book 45 years ago, this book unfortunately has been lost to history, but he's been thinking about this idea ever since. The answer is that Jesus did exist. He wasn't just a guy, but he wasn't the son of a benevolent deity. He was basically a juvenile delinquent from the planet Uranus who escaped / got kicked off of his planet for basically being a hooligan and came here to start trouble. Think about it. All those miracles that were corroborated by multiple people, way beyond the technology at the time, probably way beyond the technology of our time. He healed the sick because they have highly advanced medicine on Uranus. He probably had some small device in his pocket that he could just point at your leg and make you stop being lame, which makes a lot more sense than him being the son of a benevolent deity who still allowed the Holocaust to happen to his supposed chosen people of all people, right? So, you know, people have been puzzling over this for 2 millennia. Now that we know that the likelihood of there being another intelligent life form in the universe is extremely high, given the number of planets and solar systems, and given the fact that it developed here, the idea that Jesus was just a guy, or he was the son of God, is basically balderdash compared to the obvious answer that he was from another planet. When he had his apotheosis and was taken up into heaven, as we say in the Mass, he wasn't beamed up by God. He was teleported into his spaceship, possibly a police ship, who knows? I mean, he may have managed to orchestrate his final arrest fairly smoothly, but for all we know, he is still in prison. Who knows how long he'd live in Uranus? So I found this book, there's a lot more in the book than just this idea. There's a lot about the nature of sex and the nature of sort of the emotional forces that we send out that act on each other and that act on other actors in the universe. And a lot of this ties into sort of Jesus's actions as an actor in bad faith. He created a lot of negative energy in our solar system and on our planet, as you can see from the Crusades, the Reformation, where supposedly we were going to have this reform and Christianity was going to become wonderful, but instead the Catholics and the Protestants cut off each other's heads for 300 years. He created a lot of, pardon my expression, bad mojo. And I've never read anything that did such a good job of coming up with an alternate explanation before, besides, well, he was just a guy or he was the son of God. Obviously, with the technology and knowledge of the universe we have now, there's a third option, and it's by far the most logical. So, this may sound far-fetched, but I highly recommend that you pick up this book and give it a look, because even if you don't agree, it's food for thought. You have to think about it, because even if you're an atheist and you don't think about Christianity, Christianity has had a lot of effect on our history. And you sort of need to take that into account when you're thinking about history. Like, why was Christianity such a strange ideology? Well, because it's not exactly of this earth. And while a lot of scientists think that, well, opinions differ, but some scientists think that life will basically develop in the same basic patterns, whether it's carbon-based or silicone-based. Like, there are just basic patterns to the universe that repeat. So there are many things about Jesus that are familiar and that tie into our own psychology. But since conditions are different on Uranus, there are also very odd things about him that we're going to have to come to terms with if we're ever going to understand the very strange event that was the foundation of Christianity on Earth. So if you want to sit tight for the couple of extra seconds that Amazon gives us for these reviews, I will read a short passage from the book. I discovered way later in my life that all so-called personalities, groups, or major forces of personalities, spirits, all had their own hidden agendas. I regarded all of them as evil in nature, whether they belonged to this solar system, Milky Way galaxy, or other galaxies. The only difference being earthly spirits showed more emotions, like some degree of compassion, but that was contaminated by their own agendas, which put them in the same class as any other group of spirits. So I had to be on guard with all of them, whether they were from Earth or extraterrestrial in nature. I also want to briefly mention some common denominator of all spirits. The most significant is their super obsession with control of power, to the point of maniacal control that is regardless of any cost, trauma, or even destruction of the intended victims. So there you have it. It's not all about Jesus, but it's all very interesting. Highly recommend it. Thank you.